All right, let's get into how to use Anki. So Anki is basically a learning tool that does what's called spaced practice. It automates it for you. So more or less what you're able to do is study in a more logical order. Instead of cram and jam, which is usually back to back to back, what this does, it takes out the number of topics you're trying to study, spaces out into a logical sequence, and then it allows you to study it in a very effective and time efficient manner so that you don't forget the information. Cram and jam, the big negative, of course, you're going to forget within 24 hours to 48 hours after the exam because you no longer prioritize it. Your mind's not thinking about it anymore, so it just goes away, which in the long run really bites you in the butt. So what Anki allows you to do is avoid some of that. So I'm going to go over the basics of Anki. So first thing, a couple things you want to be aware of. If you want to import any decks from me, you go through here and import. Make sure you know where the file location is. Uh, Select it, download it, and you're good to go. Some tools. There's some add-ons you want to get from the get-go to make your life a little bit easier. So the ones that I would suggest. So go to add-ons, get add-ons, and then if you look in the tutorial sheet I include on Moodle with this, it gives you instruction how to use it. So there's a stats sheet that you're going to be downloading. You're also going to be adding a retention tool, true retention. I'll show you what the stats looks like, but this is what true retention looks like. What it basically tells you is that what is your retention level over that time span. The higher the number, the better. Ideally, you want to be over 80%. That indicates you're learning the material pretty effectively. There's also an image occlusion question type, which I'll show you how to use. It's basically you can take an image anywhere you want to, put a something to cover that word or words, and then study that image, which is pretty useful if you're doing like anatomy or even chemistry. There's a lot of usefulness for it. You'll have that opportunity for it. So that's how you do the tools add-on. And let me go back to Anki real quick. So you just plug in the number, say okay to both of them. Then after you're done, you need to restart Anki for those features to kick in. To show you what the stats sheet looks like, it looks like this. You can see that right when you go into that particular deck, it shows you how many new cards you have, how many you're learning, and how many you're reviewing. Mature and young. Mature means that it's been shelved for more than 21 days, so you've been answering it correctly enough that it doesn't want to show it to you for 21 days at least. That's what you're shooting for. When you get your majority of your cards into the mature category, you're really doing well. You're understanding the content. What's going to happen after 21 days is going to kick it back to you for practice out of nowhere. And then if you understand it still, it's going to kick it again for a long time. But if you get it wrong, it's going to put in the relearning category for you. That's how beautiful it is. If you've forgotten something, it will make sure that you go back to remembering it. So it makes your life so much easier. It just automates learning. I mean, that's the bottom line. Instead of you sitting there and saying, okay, what do I need to study now? Or what chapter should I study? It does all the work for you. All you have to do is just open your decks and start studying. So that's the true retention. Now, if you want to look at the stats tool, the other one, so this is the stats tool. If you want the overview stats, if you want to look at the true retention, if you press the shift key with the left mouse key, this pops up, and this tells you your true retention level. This is much more useful than the Anki stats, I think, because it gives you data you can really work with, which is, how many reviews have you passed, how many have you failed, how many new cards have you learned, really the data you're looking for. So I suggest incorporating this. So let's get started and make a deck. So first go to your decks, create a deck. So we're just going to create one randomly. We're going to go chem today. Press OK. Go to the deck by left clicking it. There's options, but my suggestion, don't mess with the options. Let the system do its thing. Once you get really good with this and you want to add more cards or you want to change your review time, go for it. But for now, just stick with the system. So no cards found, so I'm going to add. So this is the basic type. This is closed actually, so let me show you the basic type. So if you click up here where it says type, you could choose which one. So your basic type is your front and back, right? What is oxidation charge becoming more positive? If your classes are digital, this is really easy. You can just cut and paste information into this and make your decks. This is not my favorite kind. This is one that I use if I just want to do Q&A. But when you get to really heavy duty topics, you may want to do what's called the closed deletion. And I'll show you what that looks like. So here, just press add and make sure it's card, and it's now stored for you. Let me show you what close looks like. Close is a little bit more interesting. So close, let's say the anode is where oxidation occurs. So what you can do with this now, let's say I want anode to be hidden for me. So if you go over to the right side, you see these brackets with 3 little dots inside. Just left click it, and it makes the close deletion for you automatically. So you don't have to sit there and put C1 and brackets and all that stuff, which is a lot of work. But let's say I want to make a card that has both of these in it, right? I want to know what the oxidation part. Now, this would be a little complicated, right? If you have a question that says the blank is where blank occurs, you're going to be staring at it going, what am I doing? But what you could do instead is make 2 different cards. So one card will say the anode is where blank is occurring. The other will say the anode is where the blank. So it will alternate. Like the first one, the blank is where oxidation occurs, and the other one will be having the other word is the missing word, which is usable. Now, if you want to create one where you have multiple missing words, just keep in mind, be reasonable about it. Make sure that the clue is enough information for you to recall. Like if I ask you, where did the oxidation rules, that's something you could do a close deletion for and put 5 blanks on one card. And all those will be blank when you're looking at them. And that's beautiful. But if you don't have that situation, then you may want to do something like this, where it has 2 close deletions. This is one of the more useful techniques because it forces your mind to process the words and put it in context. I think it's a little bit better than basic, but that's really it depends on the concept and the content. So as you get more comfortable, you could go into this, but for med school students in particular, they really like the close deletion because there's a lot of terms, a lot of concepts, and you always want it in context. So that's more useful for them. So food for thought. So I'm going to add this. The other type that is the image occlusion. So we're going to take an image, and all you have to do for this is really simple. Use the snipping tool, which is your best friend for all this stuff. So let's say I want to do this little diagram. Okay, done. You snipped it. Now all you need to do is go over here into the card deck, and all the way on the right-hand side, the image occlusion button will be there. It automates everything for you. It's beautiful. You don't have to sit there and do any kind of cutting and pasting and stuff. The only problem is it's off-center every time. I don't know why it does that. So I'm going to go down. So let's say the things I don't want to see on this, and it's already set up. All you have to do is just go over the image. So I want that blank because I want to study it. Let's say I want to have this blank. And let's say I want to have this blank. So what's going to happen is that all 3 of these are going to show up as a blank, but it will be asking for one of them when it's questioning you. So it's important that you know at least all 3 images really, but just realize you can give you 1 image at a time. Now, why do you want to do this? Because you want to practice with the image and what the different parts are. So there's different options. There's hide one, guess one, hide all, guess one. So if you do hide one, guess one, I personally don't like that one. I like to do hide all, guess one. So what it does now, it creates my cards. And if you, in the left-hand side, you probably noticed it, but it said make 3 cards. Why 3 cards? Because there are 3 different things I've blocked off. So I'm going to close it, and my card's already done. So my deck's ready to go. So I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to close. I'm going to go here. Now I'm going to study it. So when you study it, what is oxidation? So you say to yourself, okay, that's becoming more positive. Didn't take me much time to do it, so I'm going to put easy. So this card will be completely gone from your deck for 4 days. And that's the beautiful part about it. You don't have to keep on studying things you know, which is a waste of time. And next time it will be longer and longer and longer. So you're not going to be forced to review things you already know, which is a waste of time. Let's say instead of easy, I kind of hesitated. I wasn't sure if it was oxidation or reduction. I didn't know if it was positive or negative. And I put good. So in less than 10 minutes, it will show it to me again. Let's say I had no idea what the heck this was. Then you do again, and it'll show it back to you in a few cards from your study session. So be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. If you don't know it, press again. It's okay to see it again until it gets completely ingrained in your head. Because once it does, then your mind can start building on it and being able to use it for useful information. So I'm going to pick easy. So go to the next card. So here's my close deletion, the blank. Notice one of the words is here. The oxidation's here. The blank is where oxidation occurs. Much more user-friendly than putting 2 blanks there, right? So the anode, show answer. Let's say that was again. Now it gives me the image occlusion. So you notice it has one thing in red. So I need to guess what this is. So that's going to be salt bridge, okay? Show answer. Now at this point, you can actually look at what these other two answers are. So maybe you're looking at this thing, I completely forgot this. Toggle mask gives you the answer for both of them. And now you could go back, click whatever you thought it was, good, easy, or whatever. And then it takes you to the next card, next card, and next card. So this one, show answer. Let's say I said easy. Then notice where blank occurs. So I guess oxidation. Say I did again. Notice the card came back again because you pressed again. That's how it works. After a few cards, it'll give it back to you. And that's important because that's how you're able to ingrain this stuff in your memory, into your long-term memory, not short-term. Short-term is fleeting. It's not going to be there for long. You want as much information into your long-term memory as possible, and this encourages that. So be honest and give the session the proper amount of time. When I tell you to study 30 cards in a day, do the 30 cards. If you have multiple decks, each deck is going to be set up for 20 cards per day. If you want to make one gigantic deck, then there would be just 20 of those cards per day. So it depends on the situation. Ideal case scenario, you want to set it up, if you're doing it for different classes, is to have one deck set up per exam. You know, if you're Unit 3, you just want all Unit 3 stuff together so that we can study it together. And then when you need to review for finals, you could do multiple decks. That's the best play. I won't suggest doing one deck for the whole year because that's a little too much unless you really want to review everything all the time. But you're going to be pressed for time, so I won't encourage that. So one deck per unit is the game plan. A couple of other things I want to show you. Let's say you made a deck and afterwards you're like, you know, I made a lot of mistakes on this. How do you fix it? Go to Browse, go Filter. You can do Current Deck, but most times you're doing it from scratch, so there is no current deck. So what you need to do is go to Decks, Chem, and now you can go in there and modify it. Occlusion is a little bit more pain in the butt. It's actually easier to just delete all these cards by, Shift, left clicking it, and then right click, and then delete. Then it would be to sit there and try to redo the cards. Occlusion is just a pain in the butt to adjust. So you're better off just doing the cards over again. But for something like close, maybe I don't want to have this as a blank anymore. So I'll just get rid of those brackets in C1. And now it's just one card. So that's how you could fix it. That's pretty much all the basics that you need to know right off the bat to kind of use this. There's a bunch of other tools, how many added, how many studied. You can take a look at all this information, but a lot of this is in the stat sheet, the two add-ons I suggested adding. So you don't really need to do it. It tells you how many are in the learning category, how many are in the different categories that you have based on how much studying you do. I haven't used this deck extensively, so there's not much going on with it as far as that data is concerned. But that's enough information to hopefully get you started on Anki and make it a useful tool to you so that you're able to, in the future, study much more effectively.